Good morning, everyone. My name is Mark Chassame, and I am Director of Investor Relations of Nouveau Monde Graphite. I'm pleased to welcome you today to the call highlighting the positive results of a preliminary economic assessment for the Uatnan Mining Project, which covers Mason's Graphite Guéret graphite deposit located in Quebec, Canada. During this call, we will, amongst others, discuss our business outlook and make forward-looking statements. Any such forward-looking statements are pursuant to and within the meaning of the safe harbor provisions of applicable securities laws in Canada and the United States of America. The statements made today are based on current expectations of management regarding future events and operating performance. They are not guarantees of any future performance or results and should not be seen as such. All forward-looking statements are subject to risks and uncertainties that could cause actual results to differ materially from those statements. These risks and uncertainties are discussed and outlined in our continuous disclosure documents filed in compliance with applicable securities laws, and it is the responsibility of each and every investor to be aware of them and to consider them in any investment decision. Before I turn the conference over to Eric, take note that although we will be taking questions from the public, that priority will be given to sell-side analysts. Also, as a reminder to all, please make sure you use the Q&A function for any questions you may have. It is only once the sell-side analyst questions are answered that we'll accept those of others. For media inquiries, we'll invite you to contact Julie Paquet, VP of ESG and Communications, after the call. Finally, despite that this call will only cover the Uatnan PA, note that we will accept all questions on Nouveau Monde Graphite as a whole. À tous nos auditeurs francophones, merci de votre présence. Un petit mot pour vous rappeler que bien que la présentation d'aujourd'hui sera en anglais, que nous prendrons les questions en français et en anglais. La priorité sera toutefois accordée aux analystes financiers et ce n'est qu'après que leurs questions soient répondues qu'elles répondront à celles du grand public. Finalement, en plus des questions sur le projet de Uatnan, il nous fera plaisir de répondre à toute question portant spécifiquement sur Nouveau Monde Graphite dans son ensemble. Merci. Eric?
Merci beaucoup, Marc. So, first of all, everyone, happy 2023, health, prosperity, and happiness. And specifically for NMG shareholders, let's pray and let's make the 2023 year the year that everyone is expecting, the graphite year that all experts is forecasting since few years. So, super pleased today to start this year by announcing to you the great PEA result we announced this morning on the Uatnan project. With me today, there's three very important experts that we have. So first of all, Antoine Cloutier with the company since 10 years, Antoine, I think now, even more than 10 years, our chief geologist. Martin Paradis, our VP Engineering and Environment since 4 years with us. We'll cover more the environmental aspect and permitting. And Charles, our CFO since 2016. Charles, over 6 years now with us. So the person here were key at developing the Matawini mine, and our experts that will be also key at developing the Uatnan project will cover the technical aspect. Julie here will also cover the Q&A at the end to make sure we answer all your questions. We're targeting about 30 minutes presentation and 30 minutes question. So first of all, where it fits in our strategy. So NMG, as you all know, we're developing a fully vertical integration. It means developing from the ground mining assets, the Matawini mine, and now the Uatnan Mining Project, all the way transform into the anode material and at the specifications that are requested by our cell maker. This is badly needed in the Western world, specifically in North America. That's exactly what we want to be for our cell maker customer. So we have two main advanced assets so far. We have the Matawini mine, which is located 2 hours north of Montreal, that is fully permitted and under construction now, and waiting for the final financing of the project to just increase the momentum and hopefully being in production in 2025. So that's a mine and concentrator, over 100,000 tons of high purity flake, not only for the lithium-ion battery market, but also for the specialty graphite market and traditional markets. So this is the first world all-electric open pit mine that we're developing with our partner Caterpillar. It's a long life mine, and most of the production will be sent into Bécancour for battery material plant. And we have announced a phase 2 battery material plant last summer with a full feasibility study. And it's fairly advanced, and that's, I would say, the focus that we have now in the upcoming years is to bring those 2 assets into production. But as much important, we need to develop also the growth of our company. So that's what we do with the Uatnan project that we're announcing today. So post-construction of the Matawinie mine, we're planning to jump onto the Uatnan Mining Project that we are announcing today, a PEA, for a large-scale project, 5 times the size of the Matawinie mine, and exclusively for lithium-ion battery market. So we will produce at the Uatnan Mining Project a flake concentrate produced on-site. It's a long-life mine that we'll discuss, with great projected after-tax IRR of 25.9%, north of a $2 billion Canadian NPV. And it's very important for us to develop it the same way we are developing the Matawinie mine with the highest ESG standards. So currently, to our knowledge, it is the largest natural graphite mining project being developed in the world. Where it fits in our overall strategy, as you know well, we are developing a project in 3 phases. First, a de-risking phase. That's the phase 1. It's our demonstration plant. That's a primary focus for us to use that asset to qualify with lithium-ion battery customer and really understand the processes, and that asset will be used to develop the Uatnan project. So that's the de-risking phase. The phase 1, we have invested over $150 million so far to serve the qualification of the phase 2. The phase 2 is the execution phase, providing the profitability of the company. That's the focus now. That's the construction of the Matawinie mine and the Bécancour plant. And we have announced already an MOU offtake agreement with Panasonic Energy, and we're in discussion to complete the marketing book with other customers. So that's the focus now. But as much important, we need to demonstrate to all those large tier 1 cell maker that we have a growth strategy that follows their growth strategy. And that's what we're announcing today. It's only producing the flake graphite concentrate, 500,000 tons per annum. We have yet to develop the more specific plant on where we'll transform that flake concentrate, either an expansion of the battery material plant in Bécancour and or build plants, also twin facilities in the US or European market. So that's all strategy that we are developing internally now and will be announced in due course. So 3 main reasons why we believe it's the right time for us to develop this phase 3. Well, first of all, there's a great demand. We'll talk about it. So the demand is there for that material. And also, we do have the asset already built and capitalized to leverage those assets. We have everything needed to develop another project now. So more specifically in our phase 1, the Matawinie concentrator we do have now, like we have fully qualified the Matawinie mine concentrate already. We know we can do very good anode material with it, and we have qualified in traditional and specialized markets. We will use that asset to do exactly the same thing with the Uatnan mining project we're announcing today, to produce enough flake, understand the properties of that flake, and also use the other asset to transform those flakes into the coated material needed for batteries. So having that asset is key for us to make this journey right now. Also, we know the work needed to develop a relationship with the customer. We're fairly advanced in the qualification of our product with tier 1 cell maker, including Panasonic Energy, that we have announced already. And for our customer, it's a lot of commitment. They really want us to succeed. It's a lot of resources also on the customer side to help us, local supply chain, to develop. So this is important for them to see also our growth phase, to follow their growth phase. So to make sure they work with the best future suppliers. So that's exactly why now it's the right time to also announce to all our customers that we will be the real deal out there for a long time and will follow their growth. And the demand is there. So I think it's obvious now, if you look only at North America, everything that was announced, that data that you see there is from Benchmark Minerals in December. So there's over 1 terawatt hour yearly capacity that is planned for 2031. It takes a long time to develop mining assets, so we need to start right now developing those. So if you compare how much anode material, graphite anode material will be needed for that, it's over 1 million tons a year only for North America. And we know for a fact that not all the capacity from the tier one cell maker was announced. There's much more to be announced, but they just need to see the strategic minerals being available before announcing more capacity. So only for North America, we need large-scale mining assets right here to serve the market. And there's also another fairly large continent called Europe. And in Europe, they also need graphite, and there's not much capacity getting built as we speak. So that's another 1.2-ish million ton a year of graphite and anode material will be needed for Europe. So both together, currently 2.2 million ton of graphite anode only in the Western world. And there's not much going on the supplier side to build large-scale capacity locally. And it's exactly what we need to do. And we are the best positioned to do that with our asset. Obviously, something very important to all our employees and all our stakeholders is to make sure that we develop those assets with the highest ESG standard. That's a clear differentiator. For what kills me the most is when I hear sometimes we need to make an EV revolution. We want transformation, but we don't want the mines. Yes, we need the mine. It's all about mining, this revolution. But we need to make sure those mines are developed not only in tier 3 developed country, undeveloped countries, but in tier 1 countries and fully developed countries like Canada, to make sure those projects are developed with the highest standard possible, because that revolution will need a lot of mines, and those mines need to be developed the right way. So that's exactly what we want to do at NMG, make sure we use the expertise we have developed at the Matawini mine for the Uatnan Mining Project. We will be on site in the upcoming days, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, meeting the local stakeholders, the Innu Pessamit communities. Actually, Uatnan means tamarack in the Innu language. It means where grow the tamarack. So that's important for us to be there in the upcoming years and understand the hopes and the concerns of the local stakeholders. And that's something that we will be making again for the Uatnan Mining Project. And last slide, before I hand over to the team, I briefly talked about it. For us, we have great experts. We have developed there's like very diversified expertise into the company, from mining PhDs all the way to electrochemists. So now we do have experts that are on the line now that are available to develop another project and reuse their expertise they have developed on the Matawini mine to make sure the project is developed the right way. It's not that they were not busy already with the phase 2, but now they have a bit more time to work on the geology and on the environmentals on another project, and we will use that expertise wisely to develop the Uatnan Mining Project. So from now on, maybe Tony, you can take it from there.
Yeah, thanks. Not quite sure about that last comment of yours, but yeah, we'll see. So proceed on the next slide. Yeah, thanks. So the Uatnan Graphite property is located in northern Quebec, about 220 kilometers out the crow flies north of Bécomo, which is the closest town. It's accessible using the paved all-season road 389, and then by following Class 1 forestry roads. So the property is situated within the Innu First Nations of Pessamit's ancestral territory, and the Uatnan property claims are wholly owned by Mason Graphite. The town of Bécomo offers port facilities on the St. Lawrence River, which enables worldwide shipping. Rail freight services from Bécomo to the main railway network on the South Shore, which can access the rest of the North American continent, are also available. So Yeah, thanks. Previous work on the property by Kinto Mining and later by Mason consisted of airborne and ground geophysics and trenching. This work led to over 43 kilometers of core drilling used to delineate the Guéret deposit. Seeing that most of the identified resources were not planned on being mined in the 2018 feasibility study, it was decided to basically refer to a preliminary economic assessment, which we're presenting today. The goal was to leverage most of the known graphite resources present, since, as Monsieur Desvoignier mentioned previously, graphite is needed to feed the future market demand. This illustration shows the proposed pit footprint as it was presented in 2018 and the current proposed pit footprint. It's important to note that the previous life of mine was 25 years, and the new one, which integrates a 10-fold graphite concentrate production per year, is of 24 years. This, along with other significant changes, prompted a renaming of the project from the Guéret project to the Uatnan project. The current mineral resources presented today were estimated using updated economic parameters, and it's very similar to the mineral resources presented by Mason in November of 2015 and the 2018 study. So there were no further resource delineation work performed on the property since 2015. The current measured and indicated mineral resources totals 11.3 million tons of graphite, and inferred resources totals about 3 million tons. So the Uatnan project thus demonstrates very high grade, averaging 17% of graphite and very lowering tonnage, making it a prime target for NMG's phase 3 expansion. So then I'll pass the puck to my colleague Martine Paradis with the mining portion.
Yes, good. Thank you, Antoine. So for the mining parameters, the objective at the step of the study is to define a project that will be technical, economic life of mine. So it will be a classical open pit operation. As Antoine just mentioned, it will be a 500,000 tons concentrate for a life of mine of 24 years. And it will be like a truck and shovel, drill and blast operation, as we will do in our Matawini project. What was good with that project is that we have some data from past feasibility studies. So for the pit optimization analysis, we have past studies to determine the pit slope, and it was easier to do a pit design. So it will be like a 9-meter high bench, classical drill and blast, loaded to 60 tons haul trucks. To minimize the footprint environmental, that is one of the important for Nouveau Monde Graphite, and the same that we are doing at Matawini project. We will backfill the pit with a waste truck from years 5, and we will optimize that in the next phases of engineering. And for all the waste truck that won't go in the pit, it will be managed with the tailings facility. On that side, we know that if we manage tailing and waste truck together, there's many ways to do that. So we will study the best way with those tailing and those waste truck to find responsible mining method. It's always also good to know that backfilling is promoted in the Quebec Mining Act. So I think we will promote that method. It will also be an electric. We will also work on the transition for all electric mining, as we are doing with the Matawini project. For this base case, as the technology is not available now, we did a diesel base case. So one of the big difference with the Guéret project is that the concentrator will be relocated near the deposit. So for that, we will need a power line that will be built. We are not far from, we're close to the Manic 5 installation. So we will use that to have the power to our site. For the metallurgical process, it will be the same process. So the same flow sheet as the feasibility in 2018. So a grinding and flotation circuit that is low cost production. And the there's one difference is as we target only the battery market, we could simplify that flow sheet by removing some of the equipment. A mining camp will also be built close to the site. It's 2 kilometers from the open pit. It's a place it's always deforested, so it's ready to have the camp for the people that will work on the site. After that, the graphite concentrate will be dry, filtered, and trucked to Bécomo, that is 285 kilometers from the site. In terms of environmental management, as I just told, we have some design criteria that we put into our mining design. So in peak backfill, it's environmental management that reduces the footprint, but also it's easier to manage the waste and the tailing maybe. And for the ex-pit waste work, I just told that we will manage it with the tailing. As for the mining optimization, it's the same for the tailing. There's many studies that was done, and there are some that is still ongoing. So we'll use all the data available, and we will use that to optimize how we will manage the tailing in the waste rock. We will also work on a site alternative study. So it will be done more precisely after the baseline study that I will just shortly talk after, to avoid any water bodies and water course with the fish habitat. We'll also integrate closer into our mining operations. It's designed for closure. It's we include in the mining operation everything about covering the site and backfilling and all those stuff. So at the end of the mine, the site is almost closed. So that is also a way to do it in a proactive mining manners. We also have with Nouveau Monde many biodiversity and environmental initiatives that we have worked on in the past weeks, months, and years, and we will be able to use it for this project too. So we have, as an example, developed a way to produce organic matter from forest product from deforestation. So that could be used at that project too. And we will continue our engagement to attain carbon neutrality for our operations. So that's all the things that me and the environmental team could be involved and continue on that project too. For the permitting, so they already had an impact study passed in 2015, but it will be updated with the new footprint. So existing baseline will be updated as the footprint is bigger, but also we need to be updated from what we have on the site now. And that will help to identify any environmental issue like protected areas, spaces at risk, water bodies, fish habitats, and there's a lot. So after that, we could identify project alternative, and that will be done not only with technical data, but also with the community. So communities. So at each step, we will consult them, present the data, present the alternative that we can do, and that will be introduced into the project. So the Uatnan project will go through the process of the Government Quebec Environmental Quality Act. So we have to pass through the environmental and social impact assessment process. It will be initiated this year. At the end, a decree will be needed to build and operate the mine. As I told, all the data and studies from the initial Mason project could be leveraged. So we could use important data, some ongoing site and data available from many years. So that is an important step when we choose our way for about tailing and water management, and to have those data along when we start a project. So we already have a lot of kinetic results that will help when we will have a baseline to have a site selection and environmental technology trade-off studies. We also want to put the best practice as we did in Matawini for this project. And we also continue our collaboration with stakeholders. That is very important in our environmental management and decision tool matrix for the project alternative. Some consultation have already been started with the Innu First Nation, and we will continue that in the next days, week, and years.
Good, thanks, Martin, and hi, everyone. Let me open by saying that I'm very pleased with the robust preliminary economic assessment we released this morning. Today, I'll be presenting some of the operating and financial highlights of this PEA. Please note that all figures presented in my section are in Canadian dollar unless indicated otherwise. First, as it was previously mentioned, we're looking at the long life of mine of 24 years for this project. Both the very good life of mine stripping ratio of 1.3 and the life of mine average grade of 17.5% underpin an annual 500,000 ton production of graphite concentrate. This great resource supports the development of one of the largest flake graphite projects in the world. Moving to the CapEx and OpEx costs, the initial CapEx of $1,417 million is comprised of the following key elements. Mining CapEx of $61 million being mobile equipment, mine garage, and some mine pre-production works. The $55 million of site infrastructure includes telecommunication and permanent mining camp for on-site worker. The $184 million of off-site infrastructure is comprised of a road upgrade projected to cost $100 million and an electric power line projected to cost $84 million to connect directly to the Hydro-Québec network. As the new crushing and processing plant is projected to be directly at the mine site, the large mining camp, the power line, and the road upgrades are significant changes over the previous iteration of the project. Finally, on the CapEx, we have a healthy level of contingency of 25% and indirect costs of approximately 40% that includes, amongst other things, the engineering, the procurement, construction management, and commissioning costs of the facility. On the OpEx cost, the estimate has been made using the extensive test work performed by Mason in the past. Hydroelectrical power is expected to cost $20 million at an affordable rate of 4 cents per kilowatt hour. Significant additional costs included in the G&E are camp costs and fly-in, fly-out costs for workers of $15 million. Thanks to the simple mining operation on the Uatnan project, the good attribute of the resource and the large-scale project, we are projecting world-class low-cost operating expense per ton of 268 Canadian dollar, or approximately $200 per ton. Going into the summary of economic highlights, the CapEx and OpEx and other assumptions presented earlier translate into strong project economics. From a return perspective, we expect a 25.9% after-tax internal rate of return. The project expects an after-tax NPV at 8% of $2.2 billion. Looking at the sales assumption, we are using a concentrate sales price of $1,100. With the projected tonnage, we expect yearly revenue of approximately $550 million US, or approximately 700 million Canadian dollar. With the projected 135 million of annual operating expense, this delivers on a yearly basis approximately $550 million of EBITDA, translating into a 3-year payback. So this concludes my presentation. So with that, I'll turn it to Eric for the closing remarks.
Thanks, Charles. So next step on the Uatnan project. Today, we are respecting our agreement with our partner Mason Graphite by publishing this PEA. We need to work now on the full feasibility study to be delivered in the upcoming 12 to 18 months. And we will continue, obviously, to develop the project with continued and reinforced stakeholder outreach, dedicating engagement with the Innu First Nation of Pessamit in the upcoming months. We will proceed post-feasibility study with a proper environmental and social impact assessment. We will use our phase 1 facility to bring some material from the Uatnan Mining Project to test the material, produce flake, and produce anode material with it. And we will eventually start the qualification of that project. So intentionally, we did not put a full timeline on that. We don't expect it's feasible to put this project into production before 2028. when we get closer to the feasibility study, in the feasibility study, we'll provide a more precise timeline on the project. So I just want to re-emphasize as a last slide that the team at NMG in general is zoom in focus on delivering the qualification product out of the phase one with our current tier one cell maker, and also qualifying our phase two, advancing the construction of the phase two. So now that our construction team is mobilizing on the phase two, our developmental team is gradually phasing on the phase three Uatnan project. But I want to re-emphasize that the focus is really developing phase one and phase two and make sure that we are bang on specs all the time and we really understand our project before putting more resource on the phase three. So from now on, maybe Julie, you can take some questions for us and for the team.
Sure, merci Eric. So we'll open the Q&A. I invite participants to use the Q&A module at the bottom of your screen to submit questions. We'll give priority to analysts on the line, but you're welcome to ask any questions, whether it be on the Uatnan project or regarding NMG's business model. For members of the media, if you're online, I invite you to contact me directly if you want to arrange an interview following the call. We'll make ourselves available, not a problem. Pour les participants francophones, vous êtes également invités à utiliser le module de questions-réponses au bas de votre écran. On va répondre à votre question en français et puis on pourra faire le tour du projet Uatnan ou d'autres questions là, relativement au modèle d'affaires de Nouveau Monde. So with that, we'll get started. So first question is regarding financing outlooks for the Uatnan project. What are our views on the possibility of financing such an important CapEx and the possibilities in terms of offtakes?
Yes, I like to keep it simple. So we're developing this product that is badly needed already. So one thing also that is not mentioned here is about the same size of mining. So because of the grade that is much higher compared to Matawini, it's about the same size of mines. So it's about the same size of operations. Same for the CapEx. So that's exactly what we're doing now for the phase two. We are currently financing similar scale project, and we are targeting for the phase two a 70% debt plus subsidies compared 30% equity. We are fairly advanced in discussion with various governments that we have announced already for senior debt package and various grant package. So before we have to finance this project, most likely post 2025, post construction of the phase two, we will have gained this experience and this credibility and expertise amongst our partners, offtake agreement partners, amongst different government that will have supported too for the phase two. So we don't anticipate that this number seems big, but it's very typical in mining in terms of number. And we are open to bring partners. We are open to discuss with established mining companies, established steel makers to see how we can work this project together. Obviously, we want to build the largest mine in the world. It is our job and duty and expertise to develop it, and we will be open to bring partner along the way. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Now regarding market opportunities. So a question regarding the percentage of potential customers that have already expressed a need for additional volume supplies from the Uatnan project.
I did not know the Uatnan project because we just announced it this morning. However, we know in our private conversation, if we talk about the top 6 customer we are targeting, it will require much more than what is announced today. And it's obvious now that what we are developing for the phase 2, which is already the largest potential supply of graphite anode in the Western world with 42,000 tons of anode material in the phase 2, it's like we need a zero more to cope with the growth of all that top 6 that we are mentioning. So we know the specs, we know how to develop the project. We just need to bring the capacity online and bring this opportunity to the customer, and they will badly need this product. And it won't even represent a significant, like over 50% of what is needed in the Western world. And something that is a bit absurd is the Chinese seems to not be invited to the party in North America. So, and currently 100% of the graphite, natural graphite anode comes from China. So we can expect, and we can reasonably think that we will take a lot of market shares by developing the two largest assets in North America currently. So it makes a lot of sense. So that's what we're doing.
Great. Now a question regarding the difference between natural graphite and synthetic graphite in terms of product quality, life cycle, ESG, and the like.
You know, every battery maker, they do have their own recipe, and they all use a bit of both. And depends how much natural versus synthetic, but at the end of the day, graphite is graphite. So there's difference, but you know, it's not too vastly different product. So in terms of quality, it depends. Typically, natural graphite capacity is better. Cycle life is slightly lower compared to synthetic. The cost of manufacturing synthetic graphite out of needle coke is much bigger, and the supply of needle coke is at risk in the future. That's part of the reason why you don't see much capacity being announced for synthetic graphite in North America, because the supply of needle coke that is used to feed the synthetic graphite plants is at risk. In terms of ESG, there's absolutely no comparison. Like synthetic graphite is probably one of the most dirty material in the battery. It produces an average about 40 times more GHG emission compare the natural graphite that we will produce. So in terms of ESG, there's no comparison between both. In terms of cost, there's no comparisons. Natural graphite is much better. So we really believe by bringing this product into the market, making it at the right specs, customer will eventually switch to natural graphite and put more natural graphite in their blend compared synthetic.
Great. Now a question regarding the Inflation Reduction Act that was passed in the summer in the US. So there is an understanding from some stakeholders that battery materials produced in Canada or battery assembled in Canada might not qualify for the individual rebate. Can you comment on that?
There's a lot of different components in what was announced in the US and the IRA. Actually the rebate that is given to consumer, the Canadian production is eligible for the customer of our customer to receive the rebate. And you know, for all the tax benefits, it's difficult for the US government to give tax benefits to the Canadian suppliers. So that's where our government have a similar fund called the Strategic Innovation Fund, open for business. They have about $8 billion available in that fund for projects like ours. We are, you know, in the description of the program, they talk about the node material supply. So it's more natural and typical for us to apply for such scheme in Canada that are quite attractive, and we are in the pipeline, and we expect to be able to be in a position to announce something in the first half of this year.
Another question regarding mechanisms offered to US producers. So did NMG applied or plans to apply for grant money out of the Defense Production Act in the US to finance part of the Matawinie-Bécancour or other projects?
Yes, maybe I can let Charles complete my answer because he's working on it as we speak. And also what we have mentioned as well in regards to the IRA, the first wave of investment from the DOE, the Department of Energy, Canadian projects were not eligible to receive CapEx funding. We have yet to see for the next future wave because the amount of billions they have allocated in that fund is so big that they will need at some point to, if they want projects that will support the US economy like ours partially, that, you know, they will need to open that to us. And we are like ears wide open to see the DOE. For the DOD, the Department of Defense, we are eligible, and I will let Charles comment on it.
Yeah, and so thanks, Eric. So obviously, as Eric mentioned, we are monitoring all the different programs, and we will be applying to some of those. Obviously, we cannot, make public announcements, up certain times, but nevertheless, we are also monitoring, the programs that are available in Europe, especially for the Uatnan project, where Eric previously mentioned that we are looking at expansion, either Bécancour, at expansion in the US or at expansion in Europe. So that this is where we are looking at the best jurisdiction and the best location to install those facility, and all the different governments all have different incentive package, and this is our duty to look at the best alternative for NMG.
All right, thanks. So going back to the Uatnan project, a question regarding the distance between the mine and the potential processing facility for battery materials.
Yeah, so for us, it's natural to look at somewhere that is the closest possible to the mine, but at the same time, it's not a major cost factor compared when it's in the concentrate. So we need to look at everything. When we find a location, we need to look at the reagent suppliers, we need to look at logistics, we need to look at electricity availability, which is quite an important part of the transformation cost structure. And as well as Charles is mentioning, we need to look at the jurisdiction who want to help us build those capacity as much as possible. And the thing we cannot do is move the Uatnan project. It's located where it is. Mother Earth put a great graphite deposit there. So at some point, if we want to build capacity for Europe, we need to decide what we do here and what we do in Europe, and we will just make the most smart decision in terms of economics at the right time.
All right, a question about process technology. So as NMG develops specific technology to mine or refine the highest quality graphite, different from other miners or producers?
I would say we built our flotation. It's not that easy. It's not that complicated, but you need to tweak the process. So initially, when we built our first phase 1 plant, it was built with experts who have experience working in the market since decades. And we are just evolved from that expertise by processing our Matawini mine since 2018 now that we're crushing and grinding and floating, and we learned a lot of different tricks to make sure we produce that product all the times on specs. So we intend to use that expertise to slightly modify and simplify the process with the Uatnan project to make sure we improve as much as possible the purity of the concentrate and the grade, and make sure we make it consistently. So on the processing, on the transformation itself for the Uatnan project, we do believe we have a pretty unique expertise. We have that in Quebec because we are a producer of flake graphite since over a century, floating graphite here in Quebec. We maintain that expertise, we grew that expertise, and now we want to use that in the Uatnan project. On the mining side, obviously mining graphite compared mining other commodity is very similar. What we have made differently is the all-electric concept. We know very well how to use this concept the most effectively possible, and how to design the pits to make sure that we use that concept the most efficiently possible. So I would say we do have some expertise there as well.
Great. Now we have some positive comments here regarding quality of the execution in terms of the NMG business plan. A question perhaps more about what is still to be finalized, or what might keep you up at night, sorry.
Every morning I would like to watch the graphite price. It's obvious to everybody. Everybody's talking about it since few months now that there's a supply deficit that apparently started in last year, at the end of last year. So we have yet to see, it's an opaque market. And so we have yet to see the graphite pricing go ballistic a little bit like the other important part in the battery, which is the lithium. So there's even more graphite than lithium in the battery. We all know that since few years. So at some point, it takes as much time building capacity for graphite compared to capacity for lithium. So at some point, we will run out of graphite as we ran out of lithium in the last few years. And by the time people bring on more capacity, there will be a lithium moment in graphite. And that's what keeps me up at night. We do have cash in NMG. We do have north of 60 million in the bank. There's no rush for us to do the financing we need to build a project. We will wait our moment. We see more and more interest from customers. Customers start actually to be really worried about the graphite part in the battery. We know that from our conversations. So there will be a moment where spot price for graphite will go ballistic, and that will be very good for the equity and for the offtake structure that we're negotiating. So we're waiting for that moment. Other than that, we want to be ready for that moment. With the only options, with the 2 projects in North America that has time to market that is needed for our customer, and that's what we do, you know.
All right, so continuing on the theme of hot battery materials, have we looked to team up with other lithium companies to perhaps sell graphite along with lithium producers?
Maybe that would work with the less established cell maker. They would like to have a one-stop shop to receive everything, so they can do it more easily a battery. But that's not something that we see for tier 1 cell maker. They talk to us for the graphite. They know exactly what they want. They don't want us to be distracted by providing other materials. So instead of growing in other markets, we decided to grow the vertical of being a great graphite supplier and just build horizontal, more capacity of the same product, because we see there's unlimited amount of market share we can take at this point. And there's not much reasons for us to diverge from that strategy as we speak, because there's still a lot of market to take just producing this same product, you know.
All right, so switching to French, going to Bécancour. Alors, on a un participant qui souhaite savoir quel est le statut de notre terrain dans le parc industriel de Bécancour. Est-ce qu'on l'a également acquis, comme Nemaska a fait l'annonce de son côté pour son propre terrain? Et est-ce que l'annonce du projet Uatnan vient augmenter les besoins en termes de superficie pour notre développement dans le parc industriel de Bécancour?
Ben, la même annonce qui a été faite par Nemaska Lithium ce matin, je pense qu'on l'a fait, nous, en 2020. Si je ne me trompe pas, je n'ai pas la date exacte, là. Je pense qu'en 2020, on a annoncé qu'on a acquis privément notre terrain. Notre terrain, il a toujours appartenu directement à Nouveau Monde. C'est un peu différent des autres terrains dans le parc. On l'a acheté d'un propriétaire privé. Premier volet de la question, le terrain nous appartient. Deuxième volet de la question, effectivement, on va avoir, dans notre projet de faisabilité, si vous regardez notre terrain versus l'empreinte de notre layout qu'on a dans notre faisabilité, qui est public, vous allez remarquer qu'on utilise à peu près la moitié de notre terrain en ce moment en termes d'infrastructure pour le projet qu'on a à Bécancour. On a la capacité de doubler facilement ce qu'on a en ce moment à Bécancour pour accommoder une portion de la production de Uatnan. Et pour le reste, on va évaluer des sites en Europe et aux États-Unis. On est déjà en discussion avec différentes juridictions, puis on a des gens à l'interne qui évaluent les différents sites qui pourraient être intéressants pour la transformation de ce produit-là.
Thank you. So perhaps just to sum up, the Bécancour land for NMG is already purchased. It was purchased in 2020, and there is sufficient space on the lot because our current development only targets about half the size of the lot. So we currently have enough space, and we would look to other jurisdictions as well for future expansion when we get closer to plans for refining of the Uatnan product. So moving on to another question, perhaps an update on the Panasonic MOU offtake, if there are developments on that end, and what else is needed to get to a definitive offtake agreement.
Maybe on Panasonic, we are in the process of negotiating the final agreements. So it will be like an historic agreement that will support the bankability criteria of our senior debt. So that's quite a document that is being negotiated. And also we, the pricing mechanism in there, the indexation of the graphite. So there's a lot of discussion going in parallel of the qualification of our product also, what is required to fully qualify not only our product, but also our organization in terms of certification. So, I mean, we have found, I believe, the best partner possible. They are very supportive. They need us to exist to keep the growth in North America. They are very organized. They invited us at their facility in Osaka with our technical team. So it's a great partner that we have in Panasonic, but obviously there's a lot of work to make sure that we work with our lenders, we work with our various governments who want to support us to make sure we build the agreements that will support both the debt story and the equity story. We keep as much as possible the upside and the graphite moment that I was talking about to capture the most upside possible. So that's where we are with Panasonic, just normal progression of our relationship and our negotiation.
All right, so moving from commercialization to production, a question regarding timeline for the start of production and when we can foresee products actually being sold.
Yeah, so for the phase 2, so not the Uatnan project, but the Matawini mine and the current Bécancour battery material plant that we have in the feasibility study, we are at the timeline of FID plus 28 months, give or take. So once you see the press release of NMG closing project finance, having signed all supported the definitive offtake, you can calculate 28 months, give or take, and we will be producing the first tons. So if FID is in the first half of 2023, we are now. So it should be sometimes in 2025. However, as I say, we want to wait for the right moment in the market. We want to make sure that we see some of the upside on pricing materializing in the market, and the condition in the market are better than today before diluting any of our equity.
All right, a bit of a speculative question here. What are the likelihood that NMG stays as a standalone company, as there is so much capital needed in the future? So potential interest from a larger mining producer, could that be considered?
Yeah, that's an interesting topic. As you see in lithium and anything else going in a battery, major companies are involved. I don't need to name everybody in lithium, but in cathode material project, you see major company are developing the supply chains. On the graphite, it's only developed by Chinese companies, and they are not invited here. So there's no majors really involved in graphite yet. So we need to do that job. So we are the consolidator. So that's why we are probably the biggest graphite company with over 100 employees in the Western world. So we are playing that role. Obviously, when graphite pricing will go up, eventually it will. It should. It needs to be to build more capacity. I don't want to speculate on anything like that, but it's either we become the large company or a larger company decide that they want to play something, they want to play a role in that market. But that's something that will be very interesting to see in the next 5 years, to see who become the big guy in graphite.
All right, moving on to recycling. So perhaps if you could share some progress in terms of where NMG is at in terms of recycling technologies, and if we have the capacity of separating all the minerals in recycled batteries.
Actually, we want to focus again on the anode. We know what we know. We don't know what we don't know. We know what we don't know as well. So we're good in graphite. So we are working with, I would say, a handful of recyclers currently that they are not focusing on the graphite because they have all the recycling business on the cathode material. And then they are stuck with the black mass at the end that contains 80 to 90 to 95% graphite at the end with some garbage. So very similar, but very different, but very similar grade compare our product that we feed into our transformation purification asset. So what we're currently doing is working with those recyclers to take their black mass to see if we can do something about it, and we can just incorporate it to the primary material. So instead of trying to make a recycling technology of our own, we want to recycle the graphite part in partnership with recyclers. We believe that feedstock will be affordable for us and would be competing with our feed of flake from the mine, actually. And we can extend the mine life, or instead of developing another mine in the future, we may just include more and more recycled graphite from our partnership with recyclers. So that's something we're working as an R&D, not like a full-blown priority, but that's somewhere we need to be because nobody else will invest the same capacity and the same capex for purification as us. We are, again, well positioned to leverage our asset and expertise.
All right. Regarding offtake for battery materials, so is NMG engaged with other cell makers? Do we have other potential MOUs in the pipeline or future partners? And do they have different specs from Panasonic? And if so, how much does the Bécancour processing facility can handle different requirements or specifications for different cell makers?
Yeah, that's at some point you need to make your ideal marketing strategy to be able to optimize your margins. I would say our ideal scenario for Bécancour would be 3 customers plus or minus 1, and that would cover the full book of what we will do in terms of optimizing, producing small balls and bigger balls. So indeed, to accomplish that ideal marketing scenario, we are in advanced discussion with other customers, and at the right time, we will announce those customers and what will be the details.
All right. Now, regarding phase 2 for the Matawinie mine and the Bécancour battery material facility, could you provide an overview of the financing structure and where we're at?
Yeah, so maybe we announced already that we are targeting a 70% debt plus grants and subsidies and 30% equity structure. That's a targeted structure. We are in advanced discussion with senior debtor. We have announced it already, like the 3 main components being Euler Hermes in Germany, the ECA, EDC in Canada, and our Quebec government supportive since a long time. So that's the potential debt, senior debt package, arranged and coordinated by Société Générale that we have appointed already and announced. So that's the senior debt package. Plus, we have made an application at the Strategic Innovation Fund, and we are in discussion, and at the right time, we should announce something. So that's what we work in priority. We have great equity shareholder in Pallinger's group since a long time, always supportive of the project, always there, always also very active, working with the management and always following their investment with strategy, and also they were there in the last financing, so there's no reason for me to believe they won't be there as well, supporting their investment in the future equity raise, as long as alongside IQ and also our new investor Mitsui. So we have 3 great equity investors to support also the project financing, again at the right time, when I will wake up in the morning and the graphite price will go ballistic.
All right, so we're wrapping up the hour. Last chance for Q&As. If you haven't gotten your question answered, please feel free to submit. A question regarding the potential transition from TSXV to the TS6. No. Other question. When did we transition from the TSXV to the NYZ? So perhaps you can just make the differentiation in terms of where the stock is being traded right now.
Yeah, we're listed NMG, some US symbol on the main board in NYSE since over a year now. We did that, I think, in spring of 2021. And we're still listed in Canada for people who want to trade in Canadian dollar. We do have a lot of Canadian investors. So, and the average volume is similar, both US and Canada.
All right, a question regarding the choice of Quebec. So NMG already had 2 projects in Quebec. There are a number of opportunities in terms of graphite in Canada or elsewhere in North America and the world. So was there a specific reason why NMG decided to pursue development in Quebec as a jurisdiction or other?
Absolutely. I mean, in Quebec, for us, it went very well for the Matawini mine. We understand well the rules, and we have employees who know all the rules, as you see Antoine, Martin, and for us, there's absolutely no reason. And the geology is great in Quebec. So we have all, sometimes the geology is not as great for graphite elsewhere. So we do have those large graphite assets. We do have graphite-born experts who knows exactly how to work here and be successful here. So there's absolutely no reason for us to go elsewhere as we speak, and we have all the advantages of the world, supportive government, the electricity and all the infrastructure to transform this product. If you think about it, there's not much other jurisdiction in the world other than China and Quebec where you can produce a humongous amount of graphite and transform it locally. So that's a great advantage we have here in Quebec, and I don't see that anywhere else to combine those 2 essential components to be a successful vertically integrated supplier of this product. So we just need to establish ourselves a little bit like they did for the aluminum business in the 40s during the Second World War, and now those assets are just printing money, and we need to take our moment, establish ourselves in the market, build capacity as much as we can, because we will be successful and resilient long-term in this market in Quebec.
All right. So I think that completes the session for this morning. The recording of the session will be made available on our YouTube channel as well as on our website. If you have follow-up questions, please feel free to reach out to Marc Jesmin or to myself if you're a member of the media. Merci à tous les participants francophones également. L'enregistrement de la session sera rendu disponible sur notre chaîne YouTube, également sur notre site web avec une copie de la présentation. N'hésitez pas à communiquer avec nous si vous avez d'autres questions.
Cheers, thank you very much. And again, Happy New Year.
Thank you.